Hello and welcome to the Astrology Forecast. My name is Sage. Here is your eye into the sky, letting you know what the cosmic events are for the week, why they matter, and how you can use this information in your everyday life. I hope everybody had a magical 11/11 portal day. I know I had a lot of friends celebrating, and a lot of us were doing manifestation work, and it just was a really great day for alignment and to call in whatever magic you want into your life. We are just about halfway through November. It is crazy how November is flying by so fast. Big shout out to everybody that I have done November readings for. Lots coming up for a lot of people this month, and it's been fun to see how that's all progressed. I will be doing the launch for December monthly forecast readings pretty soon, actually, this week. So definitely keep an eye out for that. If you are interested in booking a December monthly reading, the link is down below. You can go check out all of the different offerings that I have there if you're interested in chatting more about your astrology chart. So this week we have two major cosmic events. And the first one does begin at the very beginning of the week, and then the last one is towards the end of the week. So definitely make sure you stay tuned, as the last cosmic event for this week, the one happening closer towards the weekend, is something that doesn't happen very often. I'll actually be going into depth on that, but it is a much more rare cosmic event, so definitely stay tuned for that. And as always, if you are new to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you do get value from this video, please hit the like button as well. And of course, tap the notification bell. That way you can see when these forecasts are posted and you can be up to date and ahead of things as far as all of the cosmic energies. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about the first major cosmic event of this week. Beginning on Monday, November 13th, this is a new moon in Scorpio. So I like this new moon for a couple of reasons, and I don't like this new moon for a couple of reasons. First thing I will say that I like about it is a sort of breath of fresh air coming off the heels of eclipse season. This is actually the first lunation or lunar event that we are having post-eclipse, which does feel nice. The energy of this new moon is going to be a lot less intense, although I shouldn't say completely less intense because it actually is a bit intense. But compared to eclipses, this is nothing, right? Because as we know, eclipses are huge, major pivot points. We don't get to experience that much with other lunations besides those. But again, this is pretty important, this particular one, for a lot of reasons. A little bit of background, of course, as to what a new moon is. A new moon is simply when the sun and the moon are together in the same sign. When this happens, we don't get to see the moon because it is being essentially blocked out by the sun. What I love about new moons is they are the beginning of a new lunar cycle. In fact, this entire week is a bit of a reset. So if you've been needing one, craving one, looking for one, this is your week. But again, new moons are great for setting intentions. They're basically planting of the seeds, right? This is not the opportunity to receive all we've been manifesting and waiting for. It's more so planting into the ground the seed of whatever it is that we desire, whatever intentions we have. We set intentions on the new moon. And then again, we see those intentions come into light around that full moon when the sun is at its full luminance. So, new moons are great in a sense because they are a bit of like a blank slate, right? The sky is completely dark. If we take a metaphorical approach to this, we can see this as a blank slate, a blank canvas, right? That dark sky, that darkness is what allows us to create. If you think about it, where do you go to dream and imagine and create? We oftentimes will close our eyes. And as we know, we close our eyes and there's not much else there besides darkness. So that darkness is actually the seed of that source of the light. It's also where we can garner a lot of the, dreams and manifestations that we want to come into reality. They live there and we pull them out and we bring them into light. Keep that in mind as we talk about Scorpio today, as that process of going from dark to light is a major Scorpio process. So again, this is a new moon in Scorpio, which means both the moon and the sun are together in Scorpio. Whew. Scorpio is not for the faint of heart. You've heard me say that before. Still waters run deep with Scorpio. This is a fixed water sign. It is ruled by Mars, and we will be talking a lot about Mars today. And it is, represented by the Scorpion. And that Scorpion is not to play around with. The Scorpion is intense. it holds a lot of power and it basically pushes it down. It keeps it very locked tight, secret sealed at the base of its tail, and then it just plots and it waits and it observes and it watches. And when the moment is right, it strikes. It has that penetrative force, that Mars energy. But unlike the brute force of Mars in, let's say, Aries, Mars in Scorpio is like the cloak and dagger. You didn't see it coming. But don't worry, when it happens, you won't be able to ignore it. It is there. It is obvious. And that's kind of the energy of this new moon. A lot of times new moons are excellent, chances to have this beautiful reset where we can feel lighter. We can feel like we're able to really, dive into all that we desire and not feel so much cosmic constraint. But with this new moon, it's actually doing a lot of different stuff. So, number one, this new moon is conjunct Mars. Mars happens to be hanging out with the sun and moon. And so basically, we've got 3 planets in Scorpio, not just 2, but we've got 3. And Mars, as we know, is the planet of battle. It's the god of war. Mars brings friction and tension. It also brings a lot of vigor and vitality and energy. But again, that energy can be used for, positive, constructive ways, as well as maybe some more deconstructive ways. And so that's one thing. The second thing about this new moon that's particularly, insightful to notice is the fact that it's opposing Uranus in Taurus. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. This is not new. But being in Taurus, that means that whenever planets are moving through Scorpio, the opposite or sister sign to Taurus, we get what's called an opposition. This is when 2 planets are basically facing off, right? They're kind of creating like this tug of war. And so this tension is pretty thick. And usually these are a lot more challenging conversations between planets than other ones. And so Uranus is the planet of rebellion, shock, innovation, progress, ingenuity, freedom. Uranus doesn't like to be boxed in. Uranus can usually deliver a bit of a wacky punch. I'll say wacky because it's typically out of this box, right? Out of the world, different types of ideas, ingenuity, innovation. We see a lot of rocking the boat. And so that's what Uranus is doing for this new moon. It really is rocking the boat of the sun and moon being in Scorpio, which, as we know, is already an intense moment. Scorpio is an intense sign. Scorpio is the sign of regeneration and transformation. Having the moon in Scorpio, the moon is our subconscious, it's our emotional mind, right? It's how we feel internally. And then we've got the sun in Scorpio as well. The sun is our conscious thinking mind. It's our rational mind, right? It's our higher mind. And so when we've got both of them together in Scorpio, a lot of emotional transformation can take place here. This is an opportunity for us to really dig deep. Oftentimes when we deal with Scorpio energy, we're going beneath the surface, and not just beneath the surface, but like to the bottom of the ocean, right? To the depths of the sea. This is, again, the still water, the fixed water sign. And so a lot can lurk beneath the surface, way down deep, where most people don't venture to go to. This new moon will more than likely bring those things to the surface. Now, having a conjunct Mars is a lot of energy. This is going to potentially bring some anger and aggression. So don't be surprised if you feel emotionally charged. Like maybe you've got this like power up and you're like, man, I feel this energy where I want to set intentions, but I have maybe more enthusiasm, more motivation, or maybe I have more frustration. Frustration happens when our inner reality is not matching our outer reality. That inner reality is the moon, while the outer reality is the sun. These 2 are together, but that doesn't necessarily mean that in our life we're witnessing this cohesion, this harmony. And so if we're experiencing things in our life that don't feel in unison, like what I want, what I feel internally is not harmonizing with what I'm experiencing on the outside in my own reality, Mars is potentially going to rile this up. So beware of that. The good thing with Mars being here again is it's going to sort of force us to face things head on. And give us a lot more of that staying power. Mars is the slow burn effect. It is a fiery energy, but in Scorpio, it has more staying power. We're going to talk about this more as we get into the latter part of this forecast. But that's one thing to note about Mars being co-present with this new moon. It can bring a lot of motivation or frustration. The other thing about this new moon is that Uranus being opposing it can be good in one way and maybe also a little bit triggering in other ways. Again, Uranus is going to bring shocking things up. It's going to completely rock the boat. It's like, when you're on a plane and you get what is it called? The word is escaping me, but turbulence. That's what the word is. When you get that turbulence on the plane, that's sort of what Uranus is doing for this new moon. It's like we were going smooth. Mars was hanging out. Thankfully, Mars is in the sign it rules of Scorpio, so Mars is able to do its job, maybe a little too well, right? But it can do its job. Uranus now is coming in and kind of shifting things around. So, number one, Uranus can bring about a lot of ingenuity and innovation. This will likely result in us having these intentions set that maybe are a little bit more progressive than usual. Your intentions might be, filled with more creativity. They might be more progressive. You also might be feeling needs of freedom. Like, you have these intentions set, you have these goals set, you're planting seeds. This new moon is a sort of a reset for you, but it's a reset of maybe a next level. It's like we're going up the staircase just a bit further. Instead of being on the first floor, Uranus is taking us to the second floor, or even the 10th floor. And so, we're getting a loftier perspective with Uranus presence here. Instead of planting the same seeds we've always planted, maybe we're going to look to upgrade those seeds a little bit. We also might be dealt some cards of, shocking revelations, feelings of wanting to rebel and break out. One thing I will say, as always, look to where you have Scorpio in your chart. This is going to be huge and helpful for you because this whole week is a lot of Scorpio energy. Knowing where this shows up for you is really important. But in particular, knowing what intentions are you setting and in what area of your life is that going to show up in. Knowing what house you have Scorpio will give you what area of your life those intentions are going to show up. And Uranus is creative, right? It's ingenious. It's going to bring about innovation and, breaking outside of the standard mold. And so again, you might be finding that you have a lot more creative feelings and thoughts, and like you really want to do things differently this time around. This is really good energy for that. And so knowing that this new moon is wrought with a lot more cosmic energy than your average new moon, take it in stride. Scorpio is a very alchemical energy. It brings the darkness, the depths, that depth of the ocean, and it comes up to the light, and it is able to be regenerated, right? It's that, rejuvenation of the dark to the light that Scorpio is very good at. It's the sign of transformation, and as well as that, it's also the sign of life and death. And so we see a lot of this going on with Scorpio. Opposite to Taurus, the sign of the life, Scorpio is more of the death. And I don't say that to be a negative connotation. I'm saying it as, there's always darkness and light. That's a natural contrast. You can't have one without the other. Scorpio, that's the role it fulfills. And there's beauty in the darkness, right? There's magic in the darkness. That's where we go to dream, is when it's dark. And so, allow this new moon to activate those dreams, allow Mars to activate the motivation to pursue those dreams, and allow Uranus to activate the ingenuity to think beyond your typical dreams and to dream just a little bit bigger. And so that's the main energy of this new moon happening on Monday the 13th. If you're feeling the feels on this day, don't be surprised, especially if you've got a lot of Scorpio energy in your chart, whether that be your sun, moon, or rising, or maybe you've got a whole cluster of planets in Scorpio. Know that this is typical, especially when we've got so many planets activating this one area of our chart, aka our life. So let's move forward, because we do have another major cosmic event for this week, and this is happening towards the end of the week. This one is pretty intense and also pretty major. This is a Sun-Mars CAZIMI happening on Friday, November 17th. So you hear the word CAZIMI and you're like, Sage, again, with these astrology words, like, I don't know what this means. It's funny, every time I use the word CAZIMI, I get so many variations in my inbox of people asking about it, but it's a weird word. I know it is. So I'm going to translate it for us right now. CAZIMI stands for, and is translated from Latin into in the heart of the sun. Planets that are CAZIMI are essentially right at the heart of the sun. They are conjunct the sun to the exact degree. And so on Friday, we have the sun and Mars conjunct in the sign of Scorpio. Now, Mars CAZIMI, right, Mars rejoining with the sun, only happens once every 2 years. However, I did mention at the very beginning, we have an event going on that happens once every 32 years. You're probably like, okay, 2 years, 32 years, I don't see the connection. Well, yes, Mars CAZIMI happens once every 2 years. However, that doesn't happen in the same sign. Mars and the sun together in Scorpio, this conjunction in Scorpio only happens every 32 years. So this is major. The last time we had the sun and Mars conjunct together in the sign of Scorpio was November 8th, 1991. All right. So some of us might not have even been born then. And so it's really important if you were alive during that time to think back on what was occurring in your life around November of 1991. And knowing again where Scorpio is in your birth chart will give you a lot more clarity on this matter. So Mars conjunct Scorpio. Wait, Mars conjunct Scorpio. Mars and the sun in Scorpio conjunct. There we go. Like, that didn't sound right. So having these two planets together, Mars, like I'd mentioned earlier, is the planet of battle. It's our courage. It's our willpower. It's our drive, our energy, our motivation, our driving force. Mars is also our anger and aggression, right? Mars is the planet of battle and conflict. And so Mars showing up is definitely going to rile up some feathers. It's definitely the rebel rouser of the zodiac and of the planetary system. And now the sun, as we know, is our authority, right? It's that source. It's that God source. Having a planet rejoining the sun, when this happens, and this does happen, right? It happened just a couple months ago with Venus, happens frequently throughout the year with Mercury. Whenever a planet rejoins the sun, it hits the reset button, okay? It basically restarts a new cycle for that planet. So having this Mars conjunct the sun on the 17th is essentially a Mars reset. Now, again, if you are a Mars person, meaning maybe you're an Aries or Scorpio, or maybe you've got a lot of Mars energy in your chart, a lot of planets in those signs, this is important to pay attention to because Mars is a very personal planet. When it resets, we feel this on a much more personal level, right? Much more viscerally than, let's say, outer planets like Uranus or Neptune or Pluto. Mars is next door. It's our next door neighbor. Think about if your next door neighbor is throwing a party, you're going to hear that. It's going to affect you potentially. And so that's what's going on here. And so, a lot of things can occur when this CAZIMI happens. Number one, this is going to bring the heat up, right? It's going to raise the temperature. The sun is extremely hot, as we know. Mars is the red planet. And again, when we see red, that's Mars, right? That's the energy of Mars. And so Mars is very hot. It's a very hot energy. It's heat, it's anger, it's aggression, it's passion. All of these things are much more hot. So number one, don't be surprised if there's a lot more passion, heat, vigor, and vitality. You might be feeling this on Friday the 17th, or you might be witnessing this happening in your life on the 17th. Regardless of how it shows up for you, don't be surprised if this is happening. Anything that you feel like has been stopping you from accomplishing your goals, from going out there and reaching whatever aspirations you have set, this reset is excellent for getting a bit of like a refresh. It's like rejuvenation of our vigor and vitality. Maybe there's a project we've been wanting to go after and finish or pursue, and we just haven't had the energy levels to pursue this. Maybe there's something where we need to clarify what it is that we are here to fight for. This CAZIMI is going to have us questioning this. It's going to ask us to look in our life and say, what is worth my defense? What is worth my offense? What am I here to fight for? What's worth my energy? Right? If it's not worth your energy, that will be very clear to you on the 17th. Again, Mars is the planet of battle, which means courage. This is a great opportunity to do something maybe that scares you. The sun is very warm. It's going to essentially make sure that we are protected, and that Mars energy being at the heart of the sun is like in its full glory. Now, again, if there's things in your life that aren't aligning with your goals, that aren't getting you towards whatever, next step that Mars wants to bring you to, because Mars is about action, right? It's about drive. It wants to move forward. If there's something in the way, if there's obstacles in the way, having Mars CAZIMI with the sun is essentially going to burn up whatever is not working. And again, this can be goals set that aren't in alignment for you. This can be people in your life that aren't getting you where you need to go. This can be habits and patterns, things that we've been holding on to. This is the opportunity to get rid of that. Okay, Mars conjunct the sun says we don't have time for whatever isn't getting us to our goal, right? And again, this is going to come with some passion, some excitement. So don't be surprised if you feel more roused up. This is like that power up mode. Mars is, again, a lot of power, a lot of action, a lot of force and vitality. And so is the sun. The sun is a major fiery energy. So having these two together is a lot to experience. And again, knowing where it's showing up for you is extremely important. Some other things about this: Mars being in its home sign will create a much more slow burn effect than Mars being in some other signs. It also gives Mars a lot of power, a lot of dignity, a lot of ability to do what it is here to do. And so this is really great for Mars, but also keeping in mind that Mars in Scorpio, Scorpio is a water sign. A lot of people get confused why Mars rules over a water sign, but water is very powerful. Water can do a lot of damage. Especially if you have water that's directed in one direction with a lot of force. Think like a water gun. That's sort of like Mars and Scorpio. That can hurt. It definitely can, especially if it goes in the wrong place. So this is one thing to note. Also, whatever goals, whatever tasks you have set out in front of you, Mars being conjunct the sun is excellent for getting that done. It'll also give you a lot more endurance and staying power than usual. Maybe there's something you've been wanting to tackle, a project you've been wanting to complete, and you just haven't done that. You just haven't really finished the job. Mars conjunct the sun will allow us to finish the job. And again, this is a reset. So if the job has been done, or if it's ready to be done, the next step is we're going to reset this, and we're going to create a whole new layout in front of us. We're going to create a whole new idea of what it is that we desire and what it is that we're going after. So really important. Couple last things on this. It is a rejuvenation, right? It's a rejuvenation of our vigor and our vitality and of our courage and our boldness. Situations might happen that feel very bold, very aggressive, perhaps. Conflict could ensue. But at the same time, if we honor this energy, if we lean into the heat, lean into the fire, right? Stand around the fire, let it warm you, let it get, light that spark is really what I'm getting at. Let it light the spark underneath you and allow it to kind of push you forward. Some recommendations of how to work with this energy. This will be in effect exactly on Friday the 17th, but honestly, you'll be feeling the energy all of that weekend. Lean into the fire element as well as the water element. There's a lot of intuition with both water and fire. Both of them don't have as much logic. And if you've got fire and water in your chart, then you know what I'm talking about. So lean into the fire element, lean into whatever, brings up the heat in your life. This can be physical. This can be doing a workout. This can be a hot yoga class. This can be sitting in the sauna. This can also be more, spiritual and more connected with, the deeper parts of your oneself. You might do a candle flame meditation where you look at a candle flame and connect with that. You might build a campfire. There's a lot of things that you can do to connect with fire, but doing so with the intention of what it is that you want to create. The sun is our creative life force. Mars wants to get something done. It wants to take action. So we need to take action in order to create. And again, having this be right after that new moon in Scorpio, all of this happening in the sign of Scorpio, both are major resets. New moons are the beginning of a new moon cycle, right? A new lunar cycle. And Mars CAZIMI is the beginning of a new Mars cycle. Mars happens to rule Scorpio, so it's the ruler of the sun and the moon right now. There's a lot of rejuvenated energy. If you've been looking for a fresh start, this is the week. This is the week for a fresh start. This is the week to get active, to set intentions, to know what your goals are, to plant the seeds, and to take action on what drives you. If you have any adrenaline activities that you've been wanting to do, zip lining, skydiving, doing something that scares you, conquering your fear of heights, or doing something that's going to, drive up the adrenaline, go on a roller coaster, this would be an opportunity to do so. This is a great opportunity to get the adrenal glands working, as that is what Mars rules over, is the adrenals. And so really getting that activated, really getting your blood pressure up in a good way, of course. And again, maybe if it's not in a good way, know that this is likely, and maybe work on the, meditating and, breathing through whatever heat comes up, because again, you could look like that emoji with like the steam coming out of its ears by the weekend. After all of the Scorpio and Mars energy happening this week, things build up. And that's one thing I want to note, is that this is a great opportunity for breakthroughs. Uranus doing what it's doing with the new moon, excellent for breakthroughs. The sun, Mars CAZIMI, excellent for clarity and breakthroughs. But in order to get a breakthrough, usually what precedes that is a breakdown, right? Scorpio is that regenerative cycle. But again, you cannot have lightness without dark. and the lightness comes from the dark. And so we might find that a breakdown has to happen, that things come to the surface, that maybe old wounds and traumas and triggers, that Scorpio energy, the shadow work that we don't often want to do, maybe that is what has to get tackled first. Once it's tackled, once it comes up to the surface and we're having these conversations and we're taking action on whatever this is, then that's when the breakthrough can come. The light can shine through. And the sun is the light, and it's conjunct Mars. And so that light will shine through. If the beginning of the week feels dark with the new moon and that dark sky and Mars being co-present and Uranus shaking the boat, know that by the end of the week, there will be a lot greater clarity. Answers will come to whatever questions you might pose on Monday, the 13th. By the end of the week, by the 17th, a lot of the answers are going to come to light, a lot of the revelations, a lot of that rejuvenation, and again, pressing that reset button and saying, okay, it's time to take greater action in this new direction. So biggest piece of advice is set goals this week. This is the week to set goals. I know it's the middle of the month. Most people don't do that, but energetically on a cosmic note, this is very supportive of what the cosmic energy has in place. Setting goals, setting intentions, knowing what it is you want, and then taking greater action will get you way further this week than most others. So utilize this cosmic energy. That's why we listen to these forecasts. So we have this greater level of awareness. You literally are taking this information that I'm sharing, putting it in your cosmic toolbox, and knowing that when that moment comes, you have what you need. You have the correct resources to tackle whatever comes your way. And again, if you would like to know more about where Scorpio is in your chart, maybe you just don't know what house it's in and you want to know what that is, ask me, message me. If you don't know my Instagram is down below. And if you even want to comment on this video and ask me, I will make sure I check the comments and be sure to get back to you, because this is where this information I just shared becomes 10 times more rich and deep and insightful when it can be applied even greater to your chart and to your life. So I hope this information was of help. I wish you all a beautiful new moon week. We have a beautiful reset this week, so take advantage. Feel all of the rejuvenation of this new energy. And next week, I will be doing a full talk on Sagittarius. We are switching gears. We're kind of entering into a new energy season when the sun and Mars both enter Sagittarius next week. So stay tuned for that. Sending you all so much love, and I will see you all again next week.